what if I told you that the entire sweep of world history, we're talking the rise and fall of massive empires, was all laid out in a single dream thousands of years ago? Well, today, we're diving into an ancient prophecy that makes that exact claim. It promises a timeline from way back in antiquity all the way to a final, ultimate kingdom. I mean, it's a pretty huge claim, right? Could one single vision from over 2.5 millennia ago actually predict the flow of global superpowers? That is the mystery right at the heart of the second chapter of the book of Daniel. And today, we're going to unpack it piece by piece. So our story kicks off around 600 BC with a guy who is basically the most powerful ruler on earth, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. He wakes up from this nightmare, and it's so profound it just shakes him to his core. But here's the catch. He can't actually remember the dream itself, only that terrifying feeling it left him with. And believe it or not, this one forgotten dream is about to set a major prophecy in motion. So when the dream is finally revealed by the prophet Daniel, it turns out to be this vision of a colossal statue made of all these different metals. Now, this isn't just some random sculpture. It's a visual timeline, a kind of roadmap of world empires, one after another. Each part is represented by a different material, and each one has its own story. Okay, so the statue begins right at the top, with a head made of pure gold. Daniel explains that this represents King Nebuchadnezzar's very own kingdom, the Babylonian Empire. And it makes sense, right? They were the undisputed world's power of their day, symbolized by the most precious metal. The timeline then moves down the statue. So below that golden head, you have a chest and arms made of silver. Daniel says this represents the next great power that would come along and conquer Babylon, the Medo-Persian Empire. And if you check the history books, that's exactly what happened next. After silver, we get to bronze. The statue's belly and thighs are made of bronze, and this symbolized the third kingdom in the sequence, the Greek Empire. And we all know that story, right? Under the command of Alexander the Great, Greece would just sweep across the known world and conquer Medo-Persia. Next up, the prophecy describes legs of iron. And you might notice a pattern here. The metals are actually decreasing in value. We've gone from gold to silver to bronze, but they're increasing in hardness. And as a metal, iron is known for one thing: its raw strength, its ability to crush and break anything that gets in its way. And this was just a perfect depiction of the Fourth World Empire, the mighty, all-conquering Roman Empire. And this is where the detail gets really fascinating. The prophecy didn't just specify one leg of iron, but 2 legs. I mean, think about that. It's a stunningly precise image of what later happened to the Roman Empire when it literally divided into 2 parts, the Western Empire based in Rome and the Eastern Empire based out of Constantinople. So moving all the way down to the statue's foundation, we get to the feet, and they're this really strange mixture of iron and clay. Now, as anyone knows, iron and clay just don't mix. They can't form a solid bond. This perfectly symbolized the fractured state of Europe after Rome fell, a collection of divided kingdoms that, yeah, still had traces of that Roman strength, but they totally lacked its unbreakable unity. So there you have it, a quick summary. Gold for Babylon, silver for Medo-Persia, bronze for Greece, iron for Rome, and finally, that weird mix of iron and clay for the divided era that came after. A whole timeline of world history all packed into this one single image. But the dream doesn't end there. No, after this long line of human empires, something totally dramatic and completely different happens. This is the real climax of the whole prophecy. Out of nowhere, a stone appears, and the text is super specific here. It's cut out without hands, which is a way of saying it has a non-human or divine origin. This stone flies and strikes the statue right on its most fragile part, those feet of iron and clay, and the entire structure, representing all those human empires, just collapses into dust. So you're probably asking, what does this stone represent? Well, the prophecy itself gives us the answer. The stone isn't a person. It represents the establishment of a totally new kind of kingdom, the kingdom of God. The text in verse 44 makes the meaning incredibly clear. It says this is a kingdom set up by God that will never be destroyed. Instead, it says it will crush and put an end to all these kingdoms, and it, itself, will endure forever. This is the ultimate turning point in the entire vision. And the prophecy's conclusion is just total. After shattering that statue, the small stone doesn't just sit there. It grows and grows and grows until it becomes this huge mountain that fills the entire earth. It's a symbol of a complete and permanent global transformation. Okay, so this leads us to the ultimate promise of this future kingdom. What does a world actually look like when this divine kingdom fills the earth? Well, the prophecies describe a resolution to humanity's oldest and most tragic problem, war. There's a parallel prophecy from Isaiah that paints this incredibly vivid picture of the future. It describes a time when nation will not lift up sword against nation. Think about that. The very idea of war becomes obsolete. Weapons are turned into farming tools. It is a vision of absolute lasting peace. And this theme of total unity, it echoes all throughout other prophecies. Just listen to the language here. Let it sink in. All the earth will worship. Let all the peoples praise thee. All kings will bow down. You see that repetition? It's intentional. All nations, the whole earth. It's describing a world that is finally united, not by the sword of some conqueror, but by a single shared purpose. And really, that's the final takeaway. The arc of this incredible prophecy moves from a constant cycle of violent, competing human empires to a single, peaceful, unified world under one divine law. It is a complete and total paradigm shift for all of humanity. So we're left with a final thought here. We've just walked through a 2,500-year-old prophecy that appears to map out world history, and it all culminates in an era of total global peace. So, what does a vision like that mean for us today, living in a world that is still so full of conflict? That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.